What happens when two regional powerhouses armed with advanced military technology and deep-seated enmity bring their decades-long shadow war into full view? When missiles light up the skies over Tehran and underground bunkers echo with blasts, the tremors are felt far beyond the Middle East. The latest Israeli airstrikes on Iranian military infrastructure mark not just another chapter in an old rivalry but potentially the start of a new global reckoning. From energy markets to diplomatic halls, the stakes are growing and the clock is ticking. In this segment, we unpack one of the most consequential military escalations of 2025, Israel's recent multi-pronged air assault on Iran, which targeted 6 major airports and destroyed at least 15 military aircraft. More than a simple tit-for-tat exchange, this operation signals a strategic shift in warfare and diplomacy in the region. We'll explore the origins of the conflict, the military calculus driving both nations, and the wider implications for global peace, security, and economic stability. Whether you're a policymaker, a business leader, or a concerned citizen, this story affects us all. Overnight, the Israeli Defense Forces IDF launched precision strikes on 6 Iranian airbases, crippling airfields across central and western Iran. The IDF reports the destruction of 15 aircraft, including aging but still strategic F-14 and F-5 fighter jets, as well as helicopters and a refueling tanker. This is not the first Israeli offensive in recent weeks. In fact, it's part of a broader campaign following earlier airstrikes on Iran's nuclear facilities and command centers. But this operation marks a significant escalation in its targeting scope, focusing not only on nuclear threats but also on conventional military assets critical to Iran's regional power projection. Israel's strategy here appears twofold. First, degrade Iran's ability to retaliate from the air. Second, test the resolve of both Tehran and the international community. These strikes were enabled by Mossad intelligence and carried out with advanced drone support and satellite guidance, demonstrating Israel's growing operational edge. Iran's response has so far been muted in public, but behind closed doors, its military command is undoubtedly recalibrating. This calculated escalation by Israel is not just about Iran's capabilities, it's also about messaging. With tensions at a boiling point and no clear diplomatic off-ramp, Israel is signaling that it is willing to go further than ever before to deter Iranian aggression. The risks: a wider regional war, especially if Iran decides to respond via its proxy network in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, or Yemen. The response from the global community has been swift but fractured. The United States, while supportive of Israel's right to defend itself, is now grappling with how to prevent the situation from spiraling into a full-blown regional war. A proposed ceasefire agreement, reportedly brokered in part by President Trump, demands that Iran halt hostilities first, followed by an Israeli cessation. However, Tehran has dismissed this approach as one-sided and has called for immediate intervention to hold Israel accountable for what it terms acts of war. Europe is walking a tightrope. France and Germany have condemned the escalation but stopped short of criticizing Israel directly, wary of undermining long-standing security cooperation. Meanwhile, Russia and China have seized on the opportunity to position themselves as peace brokers, criticizing the Western approach and proposing alternative negotiation frameworks that would reduce U.S. influence in the region. These diplomatic shifts signal a reconfiguration of power alignments that could have long-term consequences for Middle Eastern diplomacy. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session, but as expected, reached no consensus. While Western nations emphasized the need to prevent Iran from acquiring nuclear weapons, other members stressed the importance of sovereignty and non-aggression. The lack of a unified voice raises a troubling question. In a world increasingly defined by multipolar interests, can the international community still prevent war? The military escalation has already begun to reverberate through global markets. Oil prices spiked within hours of the strikes, with Brent crude crossing the $100 per barrel mark as traders brace for possible disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz, a critical choke point for global energy supplies. Shipping insurers have raised rates on vessels traversing the Persian Gulf, while airlines are rerouting flights to avoid Iranian airspace, raising costs and complicating logistics across Asia and Europe. The economic ripples don't end there. Investor confidence in Middle Eastern markets is plunging, while sanctions risks have reignited fears of global inflation. For countries already grappling with post-pandemic recovery, the specter of a protracted Middle East war threatens fragile supply chains and stokes food security concerns in vulnerable nations dependent on imports. And then, there's the humanitarian toll. Civilian infrastructure in Iran, airports, power plants, communication networks has reportedly suffered collateral damage, and while casualty reports remain unconfirmed, early signs point to disruptions in essential services across several provinces. Human rights organizations are urging both sides to establish humanitarian corridors, warning that millions could be affected if conflict continues unabated. The threat of mass displacement, especially in border regions, could spill over into neighboring countries and strain already overburdened refugee systems. The Iran-Israel conflict is no longer a shadow war, it's a high-stakes confrontation with profound global consequences. Diplomats, military leaders, and ordinary citizens alike must confront a sobering reality. The fuse has been lit, and what happens next could redefine regional power dynamics and international security for years to come. Whether through de-escalation, deterrence, or diplomacy, the world must act and act fast before this blaze consumes more than just its point of origin.
But for now, we need to shift our focus, viewers, to another bit of breaking news update that's coming from the Middle East amid the ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran, and in the aftermath of the US precision strikes on at least 3 nuclear facilities in Iran. We're learning in the latest IDF has attacked 6 airports in Iran. Remotely manned aircraft destroyed 15 Iranian regime aircrafts and helicopters as part of the effort to deepen air superiority in Iranian skies. The IDF attacked 6 Iranian regime airports in western, eastern and central Iran. The strikes damaged runways, underground bunkers and refueling plane F-14, F-5 and AH-1 aircraft belonging to the Iranian regime. The aircraft that were destroyed were intended for use against Air Force aircraft and to thwart their attack on Iranian territory. The Air Force disrupted the ability to take off from these airports and the operation of Iranian Army's air power from them. So this is another big update that's just come in. This after the US strikes carried out on 3 nuclear facilities. Do remember why this is important is because Iran has responded or has decided to respond to US strikes. It's spoken very clearly of how US should have not militarily intervened in the ongoing conflict, and has also warned US of severe consequences to the strikes they carried out on the 3 nuke facilities. Apart from this, repeated warnings have come in from US President Donald Trump as well. Donald Trump has issued a fresh warning to Tehran and has said that there will be either peace or tragedy if Iran chooses to retaliate this after the US military strikes. He has been speaking of how the strikes completely obliterated Iran's key nuclear facilities. Apart from this, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has also been saying that we're very close to completing our goals in Iran. And that's what Israel seems to be doing, keeping up with the momentum of aerial strikes in Iran. Going across to Akash Sharma, who joins us with more details. IDF attacking 6 airports in Iran. What does this mean for Iran in terms of its defense capabilities and also the aerial attacks that it perhaps would want to ensure remain intact in the midst of this escalating conflict? Akash, tell us more.
So, Christine, you see, while they say that they have, destroyed the, airports, 6 airports, so they mean that they have destroyed the air assets, they have destroyed the runways, they have destroyed the bunkers, and also the platforms and the equipments that were there at the airports. We know that how tensions are further escalating between Israel and Iran, and specifically after the sort of action that we have seen yesterday, after the 3 facilities that were targeted by the U.S. Air Force. And in fact, we saw the sort of activities after that when a barrage of missiles were in fact sent towards Israel. And, many of these missiles were intercepted, but many of these missiles were also able to penetrate into the air defense systems of, Israel. And we know the sort of consequences that they have faced. But at this point in time, IDF is claiming that they have destroyed 6 of the airports. In fact, the attack, has been carried out at 6 of the airports in Iran. And they are saying that the aircraft and the platforms that were destroyed in this particular attack, were intended to use against the against Israel, and that's why these airports were on target, and these aircraft have been destroyed.
Oh yes, absolutely. And apart from this, Israel has been repeatedly claiming that more and more revolutionary guards have been killed in the Israeli strikes. But this is yet another development that's come in. We keep up with this map graphic on your screens as well, viewers, that IDF claims it has attacked. These are 6 air bases it claims to have targeted severely. Akash, many thanks for that. Going across to Akanksha Swaroop as well. In the west, in the east and the central Iran is where these air bases were located. 6 airports in Iran have been targeted by the Israeli aircrafts. Akanksha, any more details on whether or not these were all military air bases or civilian airports as well?
So you're looking at what's very important is the IDF statement, which goes on to underline that the strikes hit their runways, their underground hangars, a refueling aircraft, 15 planes, combat helicopters of F-14, F-5, AH-1 type. So, Christine, important that the IDF is indicating that they destroyed aircraft which were intended for use against the Israeli Air Force planes and to thwart their attacks on the Iranian territory is what the statement is saying. So, put this into the geopolitical context. There's a lot of accusation being hurled at Israel for escalating this conflict further. US has made its stance very clear in a CNBC interview that the Vice President J.D. Vance has given. He's already said that we are not at war with Iran. We are at war with Iran's nuclear program. But Iran is saying that there have been civilian casualties at both ends, of course. But this entire statement puts this into perspective, the fact that they are claiming that these aircraft were intended to use against Israeli Air Force planes, and perhaps rightly so, because as we all know, there's an escalation in the conflict. Iran is already raining a barrage of missiles on Israel, and IDF has also attacked Kermanshah. Why is Kermanshah so important? It's a very key strategic location. Apart from culturally and historically, the importance is also that it is home to a sizable Kurdish population. It is strategically located in the Zagreb Mountains, which is on the border of Iraq. Iraq, as we all know, is also a station to the US military. And so the IDF going on to target these 6 airports is, of course, of strategic importance to Israel. And we can perhaps expect more of such attacks to span all over Iran.
Oh yes, and like you rightly pointed out, strikes Israel claims has damaged runways, underground bunkers, refueling plane. A total of 15 Iranian regime aircraft and helicopters is what Israel has confirmed. And what you see on the left side of your screens are also footages that have been shared by the IDF to put a full stop to speculations which are being peddled by Iran at the moment. Thank you, Akanksha, for joining us with all those details. Heading into a quick break with that, we'll be right back. And we keep our sharp focus on the story that is only growing in the Middle East. Be right back.